Welcome to Edge of Intelligence, where we explore how AI automation and strategy intersect to power real-world innovation. I'm Carl Owen, a fractional CIO and AI strategy advisor at Proteligen. Today, I'm joined by Derek Wayland, Vice President of IT and Security at Zen Healthcare IT. Zen helps healthcare organizations of all sizes solve one of the industry's toughest challenges, making data actually flow across systems, vendors, and networks. From payer-provider integration to public health infrastructure, Derek and his team are the ones behind the scenes fixing the data plumbing that most of us take for granted. Derek, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Glad to have you, man. You've worked across enterprise IT, health systems, data, and innovation leadership. What's been the common thread, and how did that path lead you to Zen?
Honestly, the common thread that I've seen has been the use of open source tools, to be quite honest. In my experience working at healthcare companies, like most with the new ways of orchestration, like Docker orchestration, container orchestration, it heavily utilizes Linux and open source tooling. So my love of open source actually got me from an existing open source company, and then I decided to go into the medical field for information technology. And then just getting into there, I noticed that healthcare in of itself is a little bit behind the scenes when it comes to the modernization of the adapting to new technology and adopting new technology, mainly due to restrictions, due to regulations, and then just overall like risk tolerance associated to adopting to those things, because the consequences of doing it wrong is, it's catastrophic. It could be company ending. It could land you in jail. So being a really solid open source user, sysadmin was my background, and then while working at NextGen Healthcare, I really started to learn the information technology aspect of the healthcare system. How messages, how your data gets between doctor office A to hospital B. I had no idea how it worked before at NextGen, and then it really intrigued me to continue to stay in that space because I see a lot of unnecessary overhead associated to any sort of interoperability project in the healthcare space. And Zen has provided me just a tremendous work culture and environment to flourish. I started off there as just an integration engineer and sysadmin, and with their support, that has allowed me to grow into the vice president of IT and security, the CISO over here at Zen. Um, the challenges brought by the healthcare information world is what brought me to Zen, and then just the Zen culture is what kept me there. I'm coming up on 8 years next week, actually. So,
Great story. Zen calls itself the healthcare data plumbing company. Can you break that down for those outside the healthcare IT world?
Yeah, so the best way that I can put it, the plumbing is a good analogy for it, because Zen doesn't store data, just like your pipes in a house wouldn't store water. We pass your data through, and we ensure that it's secure and going from the right location to the right destination. And that's a really reduced way of saying it, but creating a scalable, highly available, auditable, secure messaging platform is really the whole point of Zen Healthcare IT, is creating this interoperability, integration as a service plus solution to provide to our clients. So the data plumbing aspect would be a doctor, going back to like doctor office A, wants your data from a hospital visit that you had during a vacation in another state. Well, how do you get your data? Well, Zen steps in and helps hook those hospitals, those provider groups, those EMRs into these national health networks so that you can request that data and pull it down too. So that's really what we do, is we ensure that your data is secure and it is only seen by the appropriate entities.
It's critical today with the privacy concerns and everything else.
Absolutely.
What types of clients do you serve today? Is it health information exchanges, payers, providers, state agencies? And what are the common challenges that bring them to Zen?
Yes, those are the types of clients. Really, anybody who needs to connect to other entities to retrieve healthcare data. That is our client. And so HIEs, yeah, absolutely. State agencies, we work closely with the health networks that exist today, like Carequality, eHealth Exchange, TEFCA. So our clients are the entities that need to really on board with these exchanges. If you need data, we provide. If you need data from the national network, Zen provides a very easy way of signing on to that network and retrieving that data. And that's a common challenge, is like, how do I quickly get connected to, how can I, as an entity with my own internal data models, conform to the healthcare spec flavor of right now, including not only the data model itself, but the transformation protocol related to it, like the ITI transactions. It's hard to keep up to date and ensure that you meet all of those SAML constraints and you meet those robust message protocols that have been in place for a while. Zen steps in and says, you don't need to worry about that. Here's a simple JSON object. You can build a JSON object. We trust in our client's ability to build a JSON object. So they send us a JSON object, and then we handle all of the nightmare that is related to adhering to these standards. And then on top of that, remaining compliant too. HITRUST CSF R2 compliance is Zen's like number one one of our main priorities as a company. And common challenges that our clients have are processing data in a provable, secure way that you can get an attestation from like HITRUST. For example, our HITRUST CSF R2 certification, which is one of the most robust certifications that a team strives to get. And that's what we solve those challenges for our clients. Come on board with us. We're HITRUST CSF R2 certified. Our environment is secure, scalable. We have all of the business continuity programs in place, drills, so that the whole 9 yards to ensure that Zen as a company won't fail, so that your company won't fail too. So there's a lot of that's like a really big benefit of getting HITRUST certification, is that it looks at more than just the information security program that you have at play to guard and protect data. It ensures that you're protecting the organization's ability to stay afloat as well, and address risks associated to that, vulnerabilities, so on and so forth. So that's a common challenge that our clients face, is just having to adhere to all of those security constraints and making sure that you are up to snuff in an era where breaches are so common.
Yeah. Read about it every day, man. Well, can you share with us some of the most frequent integration scenarios or use cases you're solving for right now?
Yeah, it would go back into that national networks. That's our flagship product is Stargate. Once again, it allows our clients to quickly onboard to a national network like Carequality or eHealth Exchange to quickly start exchanging documents with the nation. That is our flagship product, and it sits on our Gemini platform, which is the HITRUST CSF R2 certified platform. And then that provides additional HL7 version 2 integrations. We're coming out with different services related to transforming CCDAs to FHIR and FHIR back to CCDAs, along with some HL to JSON, not FHIR, but HL7 to JSON transformation. So we have a lot of custom services when it comes to taking a well-known data format like HL7 version 2 and converting it to something that's a little bit more modern. But the most common use case is absolutely the national networks, 100%.
I saw on your website where You guys talk about good data strategy starts at the edges. What does that mean in practice?
So I would say you want to take a look at the edge devices in your network. Now, when I'm looking at a good data strategy, my mind, because I'm in the security world, I think, what is a good transportation method strategy for data? And where is the first edge on your network? And then how does that data traverse your network throughout the different edges of it? So, coming in from the WAN into the DMZ into the LAN. So I look at it from that perspective when it comes to like a good data exchange strategy is, where does encryption occur? Do I need it right at the front door? Well, absolutely. What about internally from here to that system? Absolutely. Like, so coming out with these security strategies and then also understanding the type of data that comes in at the edges as well. Because if you have two different use cases, for example, we have a software solution called Insight, and it allows you to install a Mirth Connect channel onto your Mirth Connect instance, and it will send metrics to our Insight dashboard, and it will tell you how your channels are doing, how all of your interfaces are doing across all of your Mirth Connect instances. The data that comes over that pipeline are just metrics and like channel names. Is there really anything sensitive in that? No. I still want it secure. Would I consider it confidential? No. But is it sensitive? Yeah, probably. I still want security, but do I need to expend additional resources when it gets to my edge to then re-encrypt internally to have point-to-point encryption for metrics? So that's why, a good data strategy, you want to look at the edges and then also determine the classification of what kind of data is coming in and how can you split that up into their own isolated pipelines so that different security controls can be applied to them. Because I don't want to put a whole bunch of security controls to protect Mirth Connect metric data where the risk of that getting out is embarrassment, not I'm going to jail. So that's why it's important to really categorize things out at the edges.
Makes sense. Well, where are you seeing automation and AI delivering value? Is it, if at all, is it interface deployment, testing, monitoring, data validation?
Right now, I am seeing AI being of most value dealing with process and specifically related to high trust compliance or project management. In the task management system that I use, this is going to sound like an ad for ClickUp. I swear they don't pay me, but ClickUp is the task management system that we utilize, and they've recently released the ability to attach an AI bot to your epics if you're thinking about Jira or your tickets or your subtasks, and be able to perform automated tasks related to those items that end up in that task management system. So I see AI stepping in and doing a bunch of the what I would refer to as before the junior analyst work for vulnerability assessments or risk assessments, so like for a risk register. So what I have implemented at Zen is an automated system that when our Bitbucket pipelines receive a new commit, they automatically trigger a vulnerability scanning tool where it scans the code to see if there's any like vulnerability in the code itself or vulnerabilities in the dependencies. As it discovers those, it creates tasks in ClickUp, one task per vulnerability. In that list inside of ClickUp, I have an AI bot and I have a prompt associated to it. And I'm telling it, hey, AI bot, here's a rundown of my infrastructure. Here's a rundown of how we establish secure connectivity, the different trust anchors associated to the workflows that we're supporting. Taking that into consideration and taking into consideration how we're doing our deployments, review these vulnerabilities and score them, and then either set them into two statuses. Like one, you go, it sends it back to engineering because it could be a quick fix, update the dependency jar by a patch version and it's resolved. So it automates me giving work back to the engineers to fix their vulnerabilities. Or two, it requires further review. And if it requires further review, that makes it go through a human reviewable process so that AI is never closing things. AI is just saying, hey, this seems important. You should look at this. So I further that even more through additional automations where if a vulnerability is of a certain severity, that gets added to my risk register, because we at Zen, we track organizational risks, and vulnerabilities in our products is one risk. Another risk could be an earthquake or a flood at our data center. So we have a risk register that tracks all of that. Well, as that risk register gets populated, I have another AI bot that does basically the exact same thing. It reviews the risk that was added. It uses the information that it knows about our company, and then it reviews our security policies and all the security controls that could be related to that risk and links them together, and then provides a report for our compliance team to go review and sign off. Once again, it's that grunt work that I would have had to go do or assign, 3 engineers to go spend all day traversing these vulnerabilities through Google, where now I just have AI do the first pass, and then the last AI never finalizes anything.
It just it frees you up to do more strategic things and
Correct.
does the grunt work.
And I think you can apply that exact same thinking to developing solutions too. So, for example, that Insight platform that I was talking about, that was designed, created by my team, and I was looking at a way of modernizing it, and I took the overall workflow, the features, grabbed all the features list out of it, grabbed the input of the API and the export of the API. And then I went into AI and said, hey, go build me out a program that does X, Y, and Z. And I don't care how it works. I want you to focus on utilizing memory over CPU and disk. It went and did stuff. I grabbed it, compiled it, did a risk that compiled it, did a security scan against it just to make sure that there's no vulnerabilities associated to it. Cool, no security issues, no oddities within. Deployed it to my environment, and it took me 60 hours to reproduce a enterprise level platform that took probably 1,000 hours to create using AI. Do I know how the internal processing works of, okay, it's parsing out this XML bit and putting it into this? No, I don't care. And I don't think people should care. This is the type of thing is that, even programming is tedious. So there's a lot of tedium that you can take out of your daily life by incorporating AI. I even do that with configuration management. It's like, hey, here's a service definition for this orchestration job. I need 100 of them in sequential order. And you put in one and it spits out 100 of them. Thank you. Now I don't have to go write a program that does that. Or I could have AI say, okay, thank you for doing that, but now go ahead and write me a program so that I can go implement that into my pipeline. And then it keeps everything modular too. So people should be running towards AI, but with caution, in understanding that there always needs to be a human to sign off at the end.
Yeah, there always needs to be that human in the loop, but you've addressed a couple of really great use cases. So really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What parts of the data exchange process are still frustratingly manual for you?
Establishing secure connectivity, hands down, by far. I don't know why, but it is so challenging to establish secure connectivity with data sources. I don't understand it. There are multiple ways that you can establish secure connectivity with Gemini, one of which is mutual TLS over the public internet. So both sides have a TLS key pair that they explicitly trust each other's public certificates, and then they can talk with one another. That's one authentication mechanism. That mechanism, in my opinion, is gonna go away sooner rather than later, because the security marketplace or the certificate marketplace is going towards shorter and shorter and shorter lived certificates. So the idea of using MTLS to establish secure connectivity between, let's take an HIE, for example, they have 100 participants. There are 100 certificates that you have to manage every year in order to ensure that traffic flows. Let me tell you, that never goes 100% of the time. It always fails. There's always at least one that fails. No matter how much prep you do, somebody messes that up. So what other options are there? Well, there's VPN connectivity. That adds a whole new nightmare associated to it as well. Different networking policies, security policies that you'll encounter. Like, for example, in my VPN connections, I have a security policy that demands that everyone NATs to an arbitrary public IP in the tunnel. Not everyone follows that. My network requires it in order to function, because with all of my automations and my network automation, I use all the entire private space. So I can't and have an egress controller, but I need you to use a public IP, please. And a lot of network engineers immediately get it, and they're like, oh yeah, no problem. And they do it. And then sometimes it takes 4 weeks. So VPNs they're not consistent. MTLS is not consistent either, even in setting it up. And then further on top of that, with the national networks, they add even more complication through the use of SAML and SAML assertion. And the SAML assertion spec that is the latest and greatest for the healthcare networks today, healthcare information exchange networks today, was released in 2014. And yeah, that's on their plate to update it recently, but that adds a lot of complications where people are on the national network and then they decide to change their SHA signature algorithm from SHA-1 to SHA-256. But there's been no guidance from the healthcare networks to tell you to do that. So now my system is failing your requests, even though we're following the spec accordingly, but you're also following the best use cases. So it's just like, another secure connectivity nightmare. So what we've done at Zen is created for that particular use case, a SAML resigner. So we're tired of dealing with your SAML. Send it to this endpoint. We'll resign it and then send it to our system. Every request passes SAML now. Perfect. That's just the ingenuity that we have at Zen. We'll fix your problems for you. And now we don't have to worry about it. And then finally, what I think that the next phase for secure connectivity between entities is the OAuth JWT workflow. So migrating more to a JWT OAuth mechanism where you are relying on the exchange of short-lived tokens and secrets and secure methodologies and updating or getting new client secrets or using TLS with JWT on top of that. So getting to that direction where you're trusting, where you're doing actual authorization work instead of just relying on the TLS handshake to be your authorization, that's where we need to go. And then everyone can go get a Let's Encrypt certificate. And then we don't have to worry about the overhead of renewing certificates. So that's something that I'm pushing heavily for our side of things, is to get us to a point where we can establish secure connectivity quicker than anybody else.
Sounds like a good goal.
Yep.
Well, are you guys experimenting with, I know we've talked about AI a little bit, but to kind of dig into that a little bit more, are you guys experimenting with AI for metadata extraction, pattern detection, auto mapping across message formats or anything like that?
We are working on our AI policies to grant our engineers to begin doing something like that. So as the CISO at Zen, I know, and as a former non-security engineer, I know how dangerous engineers can be when they need to get something done. So I need to come up with an overall SOP for them to say, this is how you can use AI to help you in your development process. So what my goal is to do is show the team how to use AI in an iterative way to assist them in their development lifecycle. So, for example, like I just read yesterday that like Goldman Sachs released an internal AI agent called Devin or something, and it is designed to augment all of their programmers. That's their job, is to augment their programming team. So I want to do that here at Zen, because auto mapping message formats between HL7 and Fire and all that, like, what a nightmare. How tedious that is. That's got AI written all over it.
Sure does.
In my opinion. So how can we utilize AI? And then even further, how can one of the things that I've been thinking about is that the more that we utilize AI, the more that I need to figure out a way of tracking its consistency in responses. And I just thought of that problem statement yesterday, and I still have some more thinking to do on it, on how to incorporate AI into our business processing or our development processing in a way that is measurable, and so that it can make it immediately obvious when that is misbehaving for some reason all of a sudden. Maybe like some sort of AI score, response quality score. I remember when I worked at one of my first jobs, I worked as a caller for the National Gallup poll, and they had some sort of internal scoring mechanism on their surveys to determine if a survey needs to be reviewed to see if like the surveyor was gaming the system or something. Like if they didn't care about the qualifier questions and they just continued the survey, like a bunch of their answers wouldn't line up and the score would be weird. So I'm trying to think, how can I include some sort of like generic arbitrary score like that in my AI processing so that I can go like, that looks odd. So I'm trying to think, like, use some of my previous experience to come up with that sort of self-auditing model. And then on top of that, I also want to use AI to audit AI. So create a multi-phased pipeline. For example, in ClickUp, once again, like I can create a multi-phase pipeline that says, okay, the initial AI bot that reviews everything that comes in. Then you're the second one, and it's configured to do deeper research, take longer, and then double check the work of the first AI bot and then come up with like a final summary. What other AI pipeline roles can I implement into our system that can accomplish all this kind of stuff? So that's my biggest concern about using AI when and rolling that out, is being able to measure it and ensure that the responses that we're getting back aren't nefarious either.
Yeah, that's not hallucinating. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my employees shared with me a story about how an AI company suggested to somebody to start taking meth because they weren't productive enough. So, I mean, hopefully the people at my company, if they receive a start doing meth suggestion in the terms of healthcare IT, they'll be smart enough to go, maybe I shouldn't. But that, taking that a step down, maybe it doesn't flag a vulnerability as critical as it should have.
Well,
So,
you talked earlier about kind of putting your AI policies in place. You've not quite done that yet. When you start leveraging AI, that brings a whole level, and this is kind of what we're talking about, right? A whole level of additional risk to the equation.
mhm.
What concerns you most about that?
Inadvertently putting PHI in AI. That's it. I am not concerned whatsoever about our IP getting into AI and then somehow being dispersed or whatever. In my opinion, I'm not doing anything. In my opinion, anybody can make use of AI in the way that I am. I feel that as though that with my leadership, Zen is actually ahead of the game in terms of adopting AI into its overall processes, because that risk is, as soon as you start including it into actual system, take it to a step further. What if it starts doing provisioning for you? And what if it starts doing secure connectivity for you? I'm not at that stage yet where I trust AI to do that, but do I trust AI to suggest what products I should go deploy? And this is the container orchestration configuration that I should go deploy with it. Yeah, I trust that. And then maybe I include that into my change management system, and using my change management system and my internal token system, go get a token from my internal environment, approve the change with the token, and then an automation can kick off to communicate to my foundation environment and go do a deploy, and a secure deploy with a self-expiring token. So I'm interested to see how far I can take AI with that kind of workflow, um, or even including it into some of our sales pipelines or our account management systems as well. How can we provide dashboard to our clients that is AI generating that says, what's new at Zen that you might be interested in? So that's another thing that I want to, I am targeting low risk items with AI first so that I can learn. And then as I get more comfortable, then then I can look at the opening up the door to more robust functionality. And then on top of that, give it 5 years. In 5 years, there might be an open source large language model that you can host internally. And then all of this security nonsense that I've been worrying about goes away because I just put it in the Zen brain. And the Zen brain, which is locally hosted, is now the Zen master and can help anyone at Zen do any task whatsoever. It's like, how do I deploy this product for Zen? What does this product do for our clients? And it just becomes this Zen brain. Give it a couple of years. That's gonna come out in,
Yes.
yeah, and hopefully from an open source company in the US. That's what I'm looking for. Is
Well, I mean, and AI is evolving so fast, right? I mean, I think the last time I looked, there were 16,000 plus models that are out there, LLMs that are out there. And, you
yeah.
learn something today or start implementing something today. And tomorrow it's going to be something different, some new tool out there, right? And it's all learning so fast. So yeah, I think your approach to crawling before you can walk, I think that's the way to do it,
And
especially
that's
in the space that you're playing in.
exactly, and that's why I like the use of it in ClickUp, because it's a self-contained environment and I can disable my AI bots very quickly, and it just tremendously helps with all of my HITRUST work. As another last example of AI and how I've used it to reduce the overhead at Zen, we are going from HITRUST CSF R2 version 9.4 to version 11.5.1. Well, they're a lot more specific with their control language requirement statements. So what I did was I gave our ClickUp access to all of our existing HITRUST policies and procedures and said, go perform a gap analysis and go draft me all of the new policies and all new procedures for the HITRUST assessment, and then I'll go review. What a lifesaver. And then it also allowed me to organize those policies into a much more human readable manner through its guidance of just working with it, because
So I'm
I feel
sure
like
that
I talk
saved
to
you
AI all the
hours.
time.
Yeah, I'm sure that saved you hours and hours of work.
Thousands. I bet that when I have completed the Zen information security program that is augmented with these AI bots, we will save at least 2,000 hours a year. And that's not including the assessment parts to it. The assessments alone take, I mean, the first one, they take a long time. I got our last one down to 400 hours, and that was with, existing procedures and policies, and it still took a long time. So trying to get that number down, I'm really excited to just go to my assessors this year and say, here's a link, here's a process, let me know if you have any problems, and then walk away. That's where I'm going with my assessment, is that no human interaction in terms of the evidence, the control statements, the policies. It's all automated. And there are so many security information platforms out there that are designed to help you do this thing. Created in ClickUp, and it could be custom to you. And then now you can have AI that's in ClickUp do have all of the knowledge about your company at its fingertips to support all of your junior engineers, your junior sales, anyone. And then it opens the door for anybody to go say, well, who's the expert at this product? And if you put all your stuff in this one task management system, it's going to have all the knowledge to guide you in the right direction. I'm really looking forward to rolling this out for sure.
Yep. Well, what's been the hardest part of scaling Zen's services while maintaining configurability and speed?
HITRUST. It makes, and this is a good thing, but it forces you to slow down. You can't just include any sort of willy-nilly Bitbucket or GitHub project that's out there and just start using it in your coding to save you some time. There's significant overhead associated to, okay, well, who built that? How do we maintain it? You have to do a security assessment associated to it. So this is the type of low-level grunt work that I want to offload into AI so that the scaling of Zen services, the hardest part is staying compliant. And once we can scale compliance, then we can scale everything else without a problem. It's scaling compliance is my task at hand that will set us free. It'll really open the door for us to explode. And then now the hardest part of scaling Zen service today, building our cloud. The other part of that was just building our cloud agnostic platform, which took a while. And most teams get to use AWS Stargate or the Azure, whatever, and they get to go spin up a database listening service, and it's already highly available and backed up and disaster recovery and all that. We don't have any of that at Zen. So we had to build it from the ground up, which means that our container orchestration platform, which is auto monitorable and auto loggable into a centralized log location, is cloud agnostic. I can deploy it to anything. I have it deployed to 3 separate environments right now. It doesn't matter what hardware it is. We just have a command center that does all the container orchestration, and we can deploy any worker leafs to any cloud infrastructure. All we need is connectivity to it. So getting that stood up was the hardest part of getting Zen services to be in a scalable fashion. But now that we're there, our velocity has skyrocketed.
Awesome. Well, what trends or technologies are you most excited about when it comes to the future of health data sharing and integration?
I really like the direction that we're going towards more of a decentralized data store for your records. So with the TEFCA, they are trying to support the ability for an individual like myself to perform these exact type of document queries to the national networks, right? I think that's really cool. I think that's where we should be going. So now we're providing you, me, anyone, the ability to open up their phone, click a button, it queries that entire nation for all of your data and returns it back to you. Now you know where your data lives. And now if your privacy is your biggest concern in that workflow, now you've got a list of everyone who has your data. Now you can go hunting them down and say, delete it, delete it, delete it, delete it, delete it, delete it. So I really liked the fact that we're going towards a decentralized approach to medical data and more of an on-demand approach of, I perform that query. It queries all Epic systems, ECW systems, Meditech systems, and returns all the documents to me. That's going to not only help data concerns, but just overall your own health too. Like think about that augmented with some sort of localized AI that has data privacy constraints around your data so that it's not your health data that gets leaked out, but it can help guide you with saying, like, you should drop 10, you should start running, you need to stop smoking cigarettes, which you probably already knew, and so on and so forth. So how, like, those apps are going to be tremendous. They're already kind of doing that with those monitoring devices, but now that coupled those vital devices that people wear all the time that help track exactly the type of information that your doctors need, you're going to have all of the information at your fingertips to make the best, most educated, well-educated decision about your personal health. That's going to be really cool. And Zen is at the front of that as well, getting that type of functionality working where an individual who like signs up with one of those ID services like Clear or something, they can then click a button and then perform these queries. That just sounds like the future is here.
I agree with you. Well, as the regulatory push for interoperability intensifies, what kinds of partnerships or collaborations do you think the industry needs more of?
I think that we need to come up with an agreement as to how we're going to establish secure connectivity. I'm going to go right back to it. There's all these options out there. And I think that the healthcare field they're focusing on the data model, which is really important, but they should also be focusing on coming out with the standard of this is how we do authentication into the medical now. This is it. This is how we do it. And it needs to be over the public internet, not through a VPN, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's not scalable. So that it kind of like the national networks do with their mutual TLS certificate paradigm, which works for now. We need to basically have another discussion about, okay, what's the next version of that? Because with eHealth Exchange, they have a certificate authority, and that certificate provisions all of the participant certificates. So that automatically allows any participant to trust anyone in the network because the certificate authority is all this from the same entity. That really reduces the overhead associated to the MTLS stuff I was talking about because you don't have to exchange client certificates annually. You only have to update the CA certificate when that's new, and that rarely happens. But I would like to see what's the next phase. Let's pick something. Are we doing JWT? Are we doing OAuth? Like, let's pick something, stick to it, implement that, and get away from VPN connections.
Well, Derek, this has been a great conversation. For healthcare leaders looking to modernize their data infrastructure or improve interoperability, what's one piece of advice you'd offer them?
Don't be afraid of AI. Adopt it sooner rather than later, and choose minimal risks at first to cut your teeth off. Get better and better at it. Then you can start introducing it to higher impact workloads that also carry higher risk as well. That's what I would do. That's the biggest paradigm shift right now.
Derek, thanks again for joining us. Zen Healthcare's IT is solving one of the most unglamorous but essential problems in healthcare, and your approach to clean data automation and intelligent plumbing is both strategic and deeply needed. For listeners who want to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
They can go on our website, www.zenhealthcareit.com. There's a contact us. It's got all of our information there. So please check it out. And thank you for having me. This was great.
Really appreciate you joining us. And if today's conversation sparked ideas around automation, platform strategy, or scaling your AI roadmap, let's connect at Protelligent.com. Until next time, ask better questions, build smarter systems, and stay on the edge of intelligence.